Katie, this is Kiri and Sarah, and these are our mindfulness helpers. This is the first part of our 4-session Mindful Living course. We're going to be exploring how we can bring mindfulness into our everyday life, and this is a beginner's course. So if you're new to meditation and mindfulness, hopefully this will be a good place to start. If you already know a little bit about meditation, then this can act as a bit of a refresher and get you back into your practice.
So in this first part, we're going to be defining what we actually mean by mindfulness and perhaps exploring the benefits of bringing meditation into daily life. We'll discuss the key attitudes that it takes to meditate well and hopefully debunk some of those common myths about mindfulness. To conclude in this part, we'll be introducing some basic meditations to get you started on your way. There's no recommendations really as to how fast or slow you progress through the course. What we would suggest though and recommend is that you do each part in sequence. We start with the basics in part 1 and then build up to some more advanced practices as we go along.
As well as the course videos, we have lots of resources available on our website. That includes MP3 audio downloads of all of the meditations in the course and a course booklet that provides lots of additional information. We also have information around how to access group meditation sessions where they're available. As Katie said, this is a beginner's course and we hope you find it helpful. But if at any point you start to feel worse while undertaking this training, please do feel free to stop at any time. You might want to come back to the course at a later point. We always recommend that mindfulness is undertaken at a time in your life when you don't have too many stressors going on. Okay, so let's go inside now and try and work out what we mean by the term mindfulness.
So perhaps the best place to start would be to think about what we mean by mindfulness, what the word itself really means. So this is an idea that can easily be misunderstood or overcomplicated, but really it's quite a simple concept.
Absolutely. We could do it as simple definition. So what about mindfulness as paying attention to the present moment?
Okay, but deliberately. So deliberately paying attention to the present moment.
Yes, no, that is important, Katie, you're right. Yes, mindfulness is about paying attention deliberately to the present moment and without bringing an element of judgment to it.
Yeah, and making sure that you've got the intention not to change anything or make anything different.
Oh, yes. So, yes, mindfulness is about paying deliberate attention to the present moment without judgment and without an intention to change what you may find.
I think we're overcomplicating this, and we said it was simple.
Oh, it's not simple anymore. Okay, why don't we unpick it a little bit and start with what do we mean by the present moment?
Okay, so like this moment right now.
No, I was thinking of this present moment.
Okay, so now, right now.
Now that one's past that moment, this moment.
Man, we're doing it again.
Okay, the present moment. Well, it's quite an interesting concept when you think about it. Somewhere before the future, but after the past. Something around right now, this moment. It's so fleeting though, isn't it? As soon as you think you've got hold of it, it's kind of gone. It's like we just live in a series of present moments.
Almost like we only have moments to live.
That's one way of putting it, yeah. So we have this kind of series of moments, and once they've passed us, they're gone. It's like they're forever lost into the past. I mean, I suppose we might remember the odd moment, but we know it's not something we can ever really return to. You might ask yourself why that is. Physicists talk about a concept called the arrow of time. I think of that as a way of understanding how we only ever travel in one direction. The future comes at us, we have our present moment, and then it becomes the past. And we can only ever go in that direction, forever pointing towards the future, but never really getting there. It stops us travelling in time, but it also keeps us firmly rooted in the present moment. Does that make sense?
I think I can imagine exactly what you mean, actually. So here I am with the arrow of time. There's the past, And there's the future. So I'm always heading in the direction of the future, right?
That's right, Katie. The arrow of time can only travel in one direction. It's always pointing towards the future, travelling away from the past, but it keeps you firmly rooted in the present moment. It's like our moments kind of come out of the future and head towards the past, but we have that fleeting moment when they're ours. You could think of this ball as illustrating the moments of your life. It's passing you by.
Yeah, they're just kind of whizzing by, fleeting. Kind of feel like they would be pretty hard to kind of hang on to. They're pretty easy to miss, actually. Some are a bit more memorable than others, though. All that arrow of time stuff, I am exhausted.
Sorry about your head.
There you go.
Oh, Sarah,
Right,
amazing.
have you got a spare hand
Yeah,
there?
I think so. Kerry, can you take that?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Ooh, whoops.
Oh my God.
Oh, sorry.
Uh-oh.
Actually, that kind of makes me think about Time's Arrow. Because no matter how much I regret that happening, and I do, I can't go back in time to change it. I'm like stuck in the present moment and I just can't travel back and do anything about it now.
But you are going to clear that up, right?
Well, it's hard to know, isn't it? Because I'm in the present moment. Time's Arrow tells me that I cannot know the future. So it's very hard for me to say for certain if I will be the one who cleans it up.
I think it will be you.
Well, maybe, but the point is we just cannot know for sure the future of those broken glasses.
So all this effort that we often put into, worrying as if we can predict the future, it's a bit pointless, really. It's against the laws of nature. There are so many different variables that can happen.
Hang on, though. We can speculate. I mean, Kerry broke the glass. Kerry should clean up the glass.
Well, yeah, we can speculate. I guess we can use our experience to make predictions about the future, and sometimes we're kind of fairly accurate. But the point is there are limits to that. It is kind of a guess. It's, unless I hang around with that glass until its eventual fate kind of happens, I just don't know. Is it going to go to landfill? Is it going to be recycled? I mean, if you think about it, to really know the fate of that glass, I'd need to know what was going to happen to all the atoms that are making up the pieces. I mean, that would involve hanging around for billions of years. It's just beyond my lifespan, Katie.
Whoa, yeah. Yeah, okay, so I suppose it is a bit like life. So we have all these variables going on and we're kind of trying to predict what's going to happen, but if we get too far into the future, we can't accurately predict it because we don't know what's going to happen.
And it seems pretty pointless to worry too much about the future, although we all do to some extent. Is it more about keeping things in perspective?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's where mindfulness is so helpful. It reinforces the fact that we live in the present moment. It helps us not to obsess so much about past and future. In fact, I think there's something about, in mindfulness we deliberately pay attention to the present moment. I think it'd be really helpful to start to think about how we pay this attention. Yeah, let's go inside and think about that.
Hang on. Typical Kerry. Off she goes to her next present moment. I bet I'll be clearing that up.
Maybe some things are quite predictable after all.
So now we've figured out the present moment, let's shift our attention to paying attention, which is the second part of our mindfulness definition. So when we're talking about paying attention within a meditation context, this is different to how we pay attention in everyday life, but just in a subtle way. So when we're paying attention in our day-to-day life, generally we are listening or watching what's going on around us. But at the same time, we'll also be thinking about it, perhaps trying to remember it or remembering other things that are connected to it. We might be analysing it in some way, but generally there's quite a lot going on in our mind at the same time. Within meditation, we're kind of trying to shift things in just a subtly different way so that we're paying attention to what's happening for us in the present moment. So if you consider how your attention is focused as you're listening to what I'm saying right now, you'll probably be aware that you're kind of trying to listen to what I'm saying, hopefully, but also thinking about that and kind of trying to figure out what it is that I'm trying to get to. So What's also going on in your present moment experience is that you're also breathing, your heart is beating, there'll be different temperatures going on in different parts of the body, but these are things that you're probably not paying much attention to. You're probably more focused on what I'm saying and what's going on in your mind. So within meditation, we are shifting our attention in a particular way and focusing on particular things in our moment-by-moment experience.
Yes, so if our normal focus is on thinking, in meditation we reverse this focus. So it's less focus on thinking, more focus on perhaps our senses in the moment. So that focus becomes our direct experience of what's actually happening for us right now. Perhaps sights, sounds, or body sensations that are happening. So we're aware that thinking is arising, that thinking is happening, but we pay less attention to that and more attention to the body and the senses.
Absolutely. However, it is easier said than done. It's common that our minds are very busy. We're typically thinking throughout most of the day. And when we come to meditate, even if our intention is to follow the present moment and whatever's arising, say, with body sensations or sounds or sights, it's not long before our minds join in. It might be that we're thinking about the experience we're having, or it could be that we're thinking about something completely different, and before we know it, we're distracted away from what we want to focus on. I think of it as kind of being hijacked by the mind. And if you've ever had the experience of a very busy mind, overthinking, or perhaps you're very worried about something, I think you'll understand what I mean by that term, being hijacked. It's like we have no control in that moment. Our minds are dominating and dictating our experience and how we're going to feel. So the challenge of meditation is to notice when we are lost in our thoughts, when our minds have taken over our experience. It's also really important to remember that it's not a failure if that should happen. As I said, minds are always thinking, and that's going to happen when we meditate, as the same as any other point in our lives. I think of meditation, however, as a form of brain training, where over time we start to recognise when the mind is lost in thoughts. And this gives us a chance to step back.
I think that stepping back is really important. We're becoming observers of the mind, just like we might be observing physical sensations in the body. So we can step back from these experiences and be able to see them as equal components of whatever's happening to us. One is not more important or less important than the other. Now, this does take a lot of practice, this stepping back process. But maybe just at the beginning, when you start to meditate and you notice that your mind has wandered off, that might be a really good opportunity to congratulate yourself that you've noticed a process happening. You've got an opportunity to shift your focus.
Yeah, meditation is a skill, and with any other skill, it takes time to learn. It's important, I guess, that we're patient with ourselves in meditation. Consider our meditations as an experiment. There's no success or failure. There's no right or wrong. It's about experiencing things exactly as they are. Remember, it's not about changing at the state of our mind in any way at all. It's about being in the moment, being a gentle, curious observer.
And with that in mind, let's meet our helpers now, who are all experienced meditators. Let's see what they have to say about it.
So let's spend some time thinking back to when we started our mindfulness practice and what mindful attitudes helped us, perhaps when things were a little bit challenging. What kind of helped us get through those times? Has anyone got anything that they can remember?
I think for me, non-judging was something that I found really difficult to start with, definitely. I would initially, I mean, I still do find it quite difficult sometimes, but initially I would find that I would judge that I wasn't doing the meditation correctly, or it wasn't as it should have been, and I'd find myself getting quite annoyed with my practice and you know how it was going. But I think over a period of time, I've managed to let that go. And I found myself, you know, saying to myself, it's okay. It's okay that if something isn't quite going as planned or as I think it should be. And I do find that actually sort of it is in my wider life now as well, that I'm far less judgmental about things that occur in my wider life. So, yeah.
Wow.
I can kind of relate to that too, that judging myself and, I found at first I was really striving to get this right. My practice must be perfect. But actually, the more I was non-striving, that actually helped my practice better. You can't force yourself to relax when you want to relax. So actually, just letting that go helped. And my practice is a lot better now, the less I strive.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember in a body scan trying so hard to feel my toes. I could feel the tension building up in my forehead. So it really helped me to notice when I am caught up in striving, just be a little bit more spacious and just be curious about what sensations I can notice, and also accept and allow that sometimes maybe I can't notice or feel that much at all. Just be okay with it.
And I would like to add as well, patience was another value that was really useful to me, because I had to learn to be patient with myself when my mind was wandering, having to bring it back many times, and also accepting that each day would be different. So that was really helpful through my learning.
Yeah, I think you guys have sort of touched on problems and challenges that I had as well when I started doing mindfulness. But yeah, for me, I just found in that the early stages in the beginning, sort of noticing the present moment and being in that moment, I found it really kind of interesting and quite a rich experience as well. And I sort of noticed that I was quite sort of curious as to sort of what was going on in the moment as well. And I found that I could sort of enjoy certain aspects of my life more, like the food I ate, listening to music, and sort of especially being out in nature and observing like the birds and things like that. And it's just sort of I've started to pay attention more to life in general.
Wow, these sound like such useful, mindful attitudes to bring to practice, particularly early on when we're just beginning to meditate and there are some challenges that come up. These are all really helpful things. I feel like with all of these words of wisdom that we've now been talking about, we should go and practice some mindfulness.
This practice is called mindful eating, and it's one that you can join in with at home if you want to. We'll be using raisins, but you can use any food you want to, so maybe pause the video and go and find something suitable. Mindful eating is about having a greater awareness of the process of eating. It's not uncommon that we tend to rush our food, or maybe we're watching television or kind of in conversation at the same time as eating. And even when we have something that we really like, it's often the case that perhaps we only taste the first mouthful or so. So mindful eating gives us the opportunity to do something quite different to that. And the main thing we're going to do is we're going to eat much slower, but we're also bringing a sense of mindful awareness to the whole experience. So what we are feeling and smelling and tasting. So I'm going to hand over to you, Sarah, to lead the practice now, if that's okay.
Okay, so hopefully you're back with us. I'll pass out some raisins here. So if you each take one, so we can use this for the mindful eating practice. Okay, so if we're ready, perhaps just taking a moment to look at the raisin, to notice, what does it actually look like? You may have seen hundreds of these before, thousands. Perhaps paying attention to this particular raisin. If you imagine every single one is unique, what do you notice? Perhaps if we were to hold it up to the light, what do we notice then? Perhaps seeing different shades, seeing the light shining through the raisin. And then when we're ready, perhaps bringing the raisin towards the mouth, placing it under the nose and breathing in the smell of the raisin. Maybe something we've never done before. Perhaps paying attention to what we notice. When you're ready, placing the raisin on the tongue, just holding it there. Perhaps moving it around the tongue. What do you notice at this point? And then when you're ready, taking a bite. What happens? What sensations arise? What do you notice in the mouth? What's happening? And then swallowing the raisin. What do you notice now that the raisin is gone? Okay. So, how did people find that?
I really noticed the texture.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you said to hold it up to the light, you could just really see all the colours, and it was quite beautiful. And when we put it on our tongue, I could feel like all the ridges, and yeah, it's quite a different experience.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah, for me, it was when held up to my nose, and so, yeah, gave it a squeeze, and like I could really smell the raisin, which sort of made me realise how I don't really often really smell my food. So yeah, to smell the raisin was like different, and I'm someone who normally like really hates raisins.
Mm.
So like to actually notice my mouth sort of salivate a bit, and like me actually want to sort of taste it. Yeah, that was just completely new to me. So I really enjoyed that.
Really interesting. Yeah, thank you. Anybody else have any comments on that?
Yeah, when I first bit into it, for a moment I didn't taste anything. And then there was just this explosion of sweetness in my mouth. I just thought it's amazing you can get so much taste from something so little. It just really helped me connect to the current moment.
And on that note...
Thanks, Sarah, for raising our awareness of mindful eating.
Oh, anyway, aside from meditation, we can also bring mindfulness into perhaps everyday routine activities, bringing it into daily life. Being mindful of things that we do as normal routine, things like housework or perhaps office work.
I know something that I try and do mindfully when I remember is the washing up. It's something that I don't look forward to normally, and I kind of find myself kind of rushing through. But when I try and do it mindfully, it's a very different experience. So when we think about doing things in a mindful way, these kind of routine activities, one of the important kind of attitudes to bring to it, as well as curiosity, is the idea that this is just as an important task as any other task. So that way we're going to slow down and not rush through it in the way that we might normally. So we're really trying to be fully aware during the activity. So with washing up, one of the things to start with is perhaps to begin to slow down whilst we're doing this activity. Treating the crockery with care, perhaps noticing the smells, the warmth of the water on our hands. There might be the noises of the splashing water or the squeaking as the crockery becomes clean. Noticing the shine either on what you're washing up or on the bubbles in the water. just bringing our awareness to all of the sensations that we're aware of whilst we're washing up. Knowing that this is a different experience to the last time we washed up. So we might do it many, many times, but each experience is a new one. I'm really paying full attention to the activity. Perhaps seeing if there can be a richness to this activity that we might have done many times.
So the course booklet has a lot more suggestions for different activities that we can perhaps do more mindfully. I guess the main thing really with these activities is to be aware of the present moment when we're doing those things, really paying attention and noticing the senses and the things that we experience as we go about doing these tasks. Perhaps being curious, bringing that curiosity and an interest into whatever arises as we're doing these things. It might be thoughts, it might be sensations, it might be feelings, but really seeing if we can pay more closer attention.
You know what, Sarah, I've just realised Kerry's been missing for quite some time. I really think we need to figure out and find out what she's been up to. What's going on here?
Hi, Katie. Are you not thinking what I'm not thinking?
What?
I've reached the highest state of consciousness. I'm no longer troubled by humans' thoughts and emotions. It's bliss.
Wow. Are you levitating?
No, just on cushions.
Kerry, I think we need to debunk some of these mindfulness meditation myths.
Okay, I think you're probably right. So, should we start with the cushions and the equipment?
I think we should. I mean, it looks nice and probably makes some nice sounds, but...
Is it necessary?
Possibly not.
No. I think these are lovely things that we tend to acquire when you get into meditation, but if you're just starting out, none of this is necessary. In fact, you need no equipment that I can think of, just yourself.
I think one of the most important things to do is just to think about how you're going to make yourself comfortable. Equipment's great and can help at different times, but as Kerry said, when you're just starting out, just thinking about your own body and the different needs that you might have, if you've got a bad back or a bad knee, then thinking about how you're going to sit for a period of time in a way that's comfortable.
Absolutely. And I think there is another side to meditation that now would be a good time to broach, and maybe that's the kind of portrayal of mindfulness kind of in our wider culture. It's easy to think that it is all about kind of blissing out and having a blank mind, but that's not what we're aiming for. You might well not have any of those experiences, and that's absolutely fine. That's not what meditation is really around. We're not trying to generate any sort of experience.
So we're not going to end up blissed out and levitating off the ground like you were, Kerry?
You'll have your moments, I'm sure. It can feel really pleasant at times when we get into our meditation, but that's not always how it is. And there will be more challenging moments as we practice. The goal, if there is one as such, is to bring a sense of acceptance and curiosity to what we notice, regardless of what that is.
I think that's right. We can see kind of meditators on films or on television and think that that's how it's going to be. But actually, our meditation is just about being in the moment, being as comfortable as we can, but just experiencing how it is for us.
Absolutely. It's not necessarily a magical experience. In fact, if anything, for me, meditation's quite an earthy kind of experience. Becomes a kind of very day-to-day task.
Absolutely. And I think we might be moving on to something around those concepts.
So we come to our final meditation, which we call Sky. And in this practice, we observe something of the amazing beauty of the natural world. It's earthy in that we're doing it from the ground, but it also challenges us to take a wider perspective. I think of this practice as being like the noble art of non-doing, in which we deliberately do very little, other than let our eyes drink in what they will. It should have a kind of effortless quality to it, as if we are at liberty to be idle and simply gazing at the sky. You can also think of this type of meditation as something of an antidote to that kind of busy, striving attitude we can take towards life. So if you notice that in yourself, you might find this practice to be very beneficial. So ensuring you're comfortable, allowing yourself to focus on a part of the sky, making sure you're not looking directly at the sun. Just seeing what you can notice. What are your eyes seeing in this moment? Perhaps noticing shapes or colours or textures. Maybe there's movement or stillness. Trying not to name particularly or judge what you see. Just taking it in from the perspective of what your eyes are showing you. Now, depending on what the weather's like, perhaps you're noticing clouds. If so, perhaps just seeing what it's like to really look at a cloud. We often think we know what something looks like before we've really studied it. So just taking your time. What colours, what shapes and texture is in the cloud? If you've got a lot of blue sky, just noticing the colour. Does it change? Is it different above you or towards the horizon? Seeing if you can be really curious about what you're noticing. Perhaps planes or birds or insects are passing your field of vision. Just seeing where your eyes want to gravitate to. As best you can, not judging or analysing what you see. There's nothing to do. We're just seeing. Perhaps having a sense of the wider atmosphere or even space beyond the sky. Spending as long as you want, drinking in the miracle of the sky and the world around us.
Thanks for watching the first episode in our Mindful Living course. Hopefully you found it interesting. Don't forget to download the booklets and the audio files on the website of all the meditations. Go at your own pace and practice all the meditations in your own time. When you're ready, join us for episode 2, where we will be concentrating on the breath.
Well, we may be concentrating on the breath, because the hour of time teaches us the only thing we can be certain of is that we don't know what the future will bring.
Shh. I think it's time to say goodbye. Bye. Bye.